song from the hit sitcom Happy Days, which I, like so many Americans, grew up watching religiously every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, followed by Laverne and Shirley. Marion Ross played Mrs. C, as Fonzie liked to call her, and Mrs. C quickly became America's mom. For 11 seasons during the 70s and 80s, Happy Days brought the Cunningham family and their circle of friends right into our living rooms. They dealt with the lighthearted trials and tribulations of life in the Midwest during the 1950s.
How would you like to enter a dance marathon?
Well, I'll tell you something, Mrs. C. There's a marathon I want to enter, but it's got nothing to do with dancing.
There was Fonzie, Richie, Joni, Ralph Malph, Potsy, and Howard.
Gentlemen, start your jump!
And, of course, the loving and nurturing mother, Mrs. C, played by Marion Ross.
Why don't you just go on up to bed, and I'll come up later with some milk and cookies.
The show was a ratings blockbuster.
Now, if this fighting thing is a problem, you can tell us about it. I mean, we're family.
And would make Mrs. C one of America's most iconic TV moms. And Marion Ross has written a new book about her life. It's called My Days, Happy and Otherwise. Please welcome Marion Ross.
So glad I came.
What a nice welcome. That's how we all feel about you.
Well,
I love this book because it takes us through your life journey, not that of Mrs. C, but that of Marion Ross. And this is one strong lady. Okay, born in Minnesota, didn't have a lot of money, knew you wanted to be an actress, a lot of naysayers. Somebody says to you, isn't that going to be really hard to break into Hollywood? And what did you say?
yes, I was in college and I'm hitchhiking. Another student picks me up, you know, and he said, I understand you want to be an actress. That's kind of hard, isn't it? Hard career. I said, yes, I don't know what's going to happen to all the others. And I meant that. Yeah.
It's going to be hard for them, but I got this.
No.
So you wind up at 24 getting signed by Paramount and part of the Golden Circle, where you go to all these fancy events.
Yes.
And ultimately get cast in several movies, including one with Clark Gable.
Well, and I loved the first movie I ever got cast in, Forever Female, and it was William Holden and Ginger Rogers and Paul Douglas. I mean, it was early on, and the director said, he thought I looked like Greer Garson. He said, Miss Garson, what do you think about that? Well, then I had opinions. I had opinions about the script and everything.
But you came up in a time, I mean, right now we're going through this Me Too movement here in America. I can only imagine back in the day, the casting couch situations you must have found yourself in.
That was, and I suppose it still goes on. I know the girls are rebelling now. The young girls are rebelling. But they would say, don't be going around and visiting the sets on your own. Don't do that. I was under contract there. I was a starlet. So they said, it's not safe. It's not safe for you to do that. And
the onus was on you to make sure you didn't put yourself in that situation.
So before I was finishing at UCLA, I got a little job serving dinner at somebody's mansion, and I was already married because I had run off and eloped, so I was already married. So somebody at the dinner said, we understand you want to be an actress. Here, come and see me. He goes into the kitchen and gives me his card. So I go see him, and I thought it was his office. No, I think it was his apartment. And he said, how do you think you're going to get anywhere? I said, well, I'm a really good actress. I'm like 21. So he said, I can help you. I can take you places, and I can, you know, we can go to these parties, and I can help you. It's pretty hard business. I said, you have, and I punched him in the shoulder. I said, you have no character right in there. I'm married. I can't do things like that. Now he didn't know what to do with me.
And, you know, believe it or not, she wound up getting the job. You have no character and I'm married. Got her the job. And that was just the beginning. That was just the beginning. I know when you were part of the Paramount, you know, Golden Circle, you worried that you weren't glamorous enough. But being this relatable, loving, approachable character would wind up making you a star when you finally got the call for Happy Days. When you first launched that show, when did you know it was a hit?
Well, it took a while. It took about the first year. And then we were filming bits and pieces of different scripts, you know, and we were getting to know one another, so it was a little bit rough. So finally, the young producer called us in. He said, and he was part Indian, part American Indian, stood like an Indian chief, and he said, you've all got to cooperate because we have a hit on our hands.
So no, that's much better news than us getting canceled.
Yes, exactly. And then we all started to laugh.
Now, the book is very open about Marion's time on Happy Days, including the one cast member with whom she had a very sketchy relationship in the beginning. Up next, she'll tell us who that was, and we'll be joined by a couple of special guests you will recognize. We're back now with Marion Ross, who starred in the iconic role of Mrs. C on the hit television show Happy Days. And she brought some special friends with her today who contributed some of the stories in the book. Richie's buddies, Potsy and Ralph Malph, are here. Welcome Anson Williams and Don Most. Wonderful to have you here.
Mary.
Perfect.
Mary,
Perfect.
Mrs. C.
Perfect.
How great is that? Isn't it just fun to see them together? It's just fun to see you together.
I didn't know you were going to be here.
Oh, I know. Well, we're so happy to surprise you.
You know, when in preparing for this, I read about Gary Marshall, of course, the man behind this genius show, not to mention Laverne and Shirley, which followed right after. The thought was that after the turbulent 1960s, and while the country was in the midst of the Vietnam War, that he was convinced Americans would be ready for a feel-good show, something that spoke to their better angels. Mm-hmm. Is that how it felt while you were doing it? Let me ask you, Marion.
Oh, very much so. In fact, at one point I asked him, as we went on a few years, I said, do you think Tom and I could have more to do in the show?
And you and Tom Bosley, Mr.
Yeah.
C.
And he said, it's not about you.
Now
It's about the boys.
That was one of the juicy revelations of the book, is that Mr. and Mrs. C didn't really get along that well behind the scenes for a time there.
For a couple years.
I didn't know that.
Why not?
This is news.
I think either Tom Bosley had somebody else in mind right from the beginning, but I had a very small part at the beginning. My lines were like, oh, Howard, oh, children, you're not eating. That was about it. So as the years went on, but Tom, something about me, so we had to work our way through that because I learned to love him. I love him. And we became very close friends.
You got to a better place.
Yeah.
Is it true, Don, that actually Anson that you were originally auditioning for Potsy, for Anson's part?
That's true. Yes, I was auditioning a screen test. I remember it very well because I saw Ron and Anson there the day of the screen test, so it kind of intimidated me. But
Of course.
Naturally. You're used to that.
But you know, my agent called and said, you didn't get the part, but they liked your screen test so much, they want to create a role for you and make you a regular. So that's how that happened.
And you, Anson, had to go back with Ron Howard for a second screen test. Why? They weren't sure about you guys?
Well, we did a pilot a year before,
Right.
without Ralph, without Fonzie, that didn't sell. And when American Graffiti came out and was a hit and they had Grease on Broadway, they thought they would do another pilot. But they thought Ron and I might be too old.
How old were you at the time?
22.
Okay.
Yeah, and they say, how young were you? I said, as young as I could get. It's amazing what body language does.
Yeah.
But no, so we actually snuck on the set where we were going to do the screen test, and Ron blocked out everything before we did it, so we looked very spontaneous when we were doing the test.
Right.
They usually do 20 minutes. They spent 2 hours with us.
Yeah, I remember.
And we got the part again.
Of course, one of the things that made the show so successful was your relationship with Fonzie, Mrs. C and Fonzie.
Yes.
You were the only one who was allowed to call him Arthur, right?
Yes.
But his fame was enormous. How did that affect the dynamic of the show?
No, he walked off with that show in his pocket. And first of all, Ron took it.
Ron Howard, yeah.
He was a gentleman. Otherwise, the show would have just collapsed right then. They wanted to make his own series for him.
Right.
Yeah, they asked me, they said, are you jealous of Henry? I said, are you kidding? He bought me a house. Go
with it.
Hey.
He was so cool. I had the Fonzie poster in my house. We all wanted to date Fonzie and wanted to be Pinky Tuscadero, who we saw in that clip there.
Yeah.
You joked that he bought you your house, but you actually, I love what you're doing now. Can you just tell us, I thought this was something really interesting about you and
Dr.
drowsy driving. Dr. Heimlich,
Dr.
Heimlich maneuver is your cousin?
He's my second cousin, but I've called him uncle since I was born.
Okay.
In fact, Dr. Heimlich maneuver is my uncle. And we got the Heimlich maneuver on national television for the first time on the Merv Griffin show. And he was very, very close to me. But years ago, I almost killed myself falling asleep at the wheel. And I told Dr. Heimlich, and he said, Anson, you cut up a lemon, the citric acid and the sour lemon will hit the lingual nerve on top of your tongue, and you'll have
awake.
automatic reaction of adrenaline, nothing in your system. It will save your life. So I did that for years. Then I went in the product business, and we developed a product called Alert Drops. And anyone out there that knows people with drowsy driving, this will save their lives. Go to alertdrops.com.
I like it. I know you're a paid
education.
spokesman, but can I tell you, as somebody who has done drowsy driving myself, I could have used this. I like this. And if I don't have it handy, I'm just going to suck on a lemon. But you may have saved some lives. Oh, look at him. He's got, thank you. Thank you very much. Listen, I could spend the hour talking about this book and this show, and I want to tell you, I truly, truly loved it, and I loved your courage at a time when it was tough, very tough for women. All the best to you, and thank you for so many wonderful memories.
Thank
all three of you.
Thank you.
It's
Much love.
Joy to be here.
We'll be right back.
With Mom.
Aww.